Wonderful to be here on this spring morning of Delhi. Clear blue skies, pollution less. Very sort of fortuitous that we are present here for this seventh year that we are doing this, the fifth edition of the India Today Tourism Summit and Awards. Minister of Tourism of Odisha, Ashwini Kumar Patra is here, and his wife, Mrs. Patra. Very warm welcome to them. We have a whole lot of distinguished speakers, including the first session, and a lot of my friends are here as well for that session and in the audience. And ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of India Today magazine, let me again welcome you to this summit, and thank you for taking time out to be here. Since we've held this in 2017, we all know that tourism industry, the sector, has experienced galloping growth and alarming reversals. And we know the reasons why. We saw how during COVID, there was this huge crunch that happened, tremendous disruptions, which saw the industry almost going bust. But fortunately, in the last 3-4 years, or maybe 3 years, we are seeing that the sector moving away from what we call the COVID cliff. It was at the edge of the precipice, it was almost about to collapse, and now it has recovered. Just last year, the World Travel and Tourism Council, the premier body that looks at tourism across the world, in its report for India, talked of the fact that in 2023, it contributed rupees 16.5 trillion rupees to the Indian economy, which is about 3.5% less than what it was in 2019. So we are well on the path to recovery if you're getting 16.5 trillion rupees. And it accounts for 5.4% of India's GDP. Of course, the potential is far, far more. We are underperforming. It's underwhelming in many senses. We've also seen an increase in the spend of international visitors, who said to have spent about rupees 2 trillion last year. And if you know, the statistics show that about 6.43 million visitors came. It looks impressive, but as we know that when we look at other countries, whether it's even a small country like Thailand, they have many, many more visitors than what we do. India contributes barely 2% to the world tourism sector, whereas even a small country like Thailand does about 5%. That's the sort of differential that we are seeing, and that's the potential as well. We also have, the main emphasis has been, and we have noticed this shift that has happened in the last 3-4 decades, is that earlier we were highly dependent on the foreign tourist, but the industry has swerved very sharply towards domestic tourism. And today we estimate there's something like 1.7 billion domestic tourists. So the industry itself can survive on the basis of if we are able to attract more domestic tourists, but let's not forget we require foreign exchange. And at the peak in 2019, just before COVID struck, we had earned $30 billion in terms of foreign exchange from tourism alone. That dropped to $7 billion in 2020, now recovered to about $18 billion, and last year was expected to be $22 billion. Still not at the peak, but yes, we are on the road to recovery. The other thing was that, if you recall, this sector was hit the most and people lost jobs across the country. It is now estimated that we have recovered quite a lot of those jobs, and currently the tourism sector employs about 39 million people. This was last year's figures, and if you look at that, it means that 1 out of every 13 workers in India are employed in the tourism sector, and it still remains one of the key employment generators of the Indian economy, and that's why we're here, because this is where the potential is tremendous. If you're talking of unemployment, as many of our Mood of the Nation polls have shown, tourism is the sector that can generate the kind of employment that will keep our youth engaged, aspiring, and at the same time bring them the incomes that they are aspiring to have. So we saw last year how Prime Minister Narendra Modi transformed the G20 into an event that became national. Normally it is one of those exclusive diplomatic events, but he made it part of the people's movement, and over 60 meetings were held across various cities in all the states of India, and this was a great opportunity for the states to showcase what they had in terms of tourism, to offer the delegates, but also to spruce up their own tourism plans and policies that they had. There was also a World Global Tourism Investors Summit, where again, there was a lot of opportunity to discuss what needs to be done, whether on theme parks, adventure tourism, and wellness tourism. If you see also the budget, the union budget has also shown a lot of emphasis towards tourism. Last year, there was the launch of the Swadesh Darshan 2.0 scheme, which is focused on a very important task of sustainable and responsible development of tourism. That's the new buzzword, green tourism, and that's very critical for it. Of course, the Prime Minister has always talked of the Dekho Apna Desh program, and that has been, of course, launched to get the Indians to see their own places or, get to visit other states rather than just trying to focus on traveling abroad as we normally do. And show off that we had gone abroad. But I think now the thing is, let's go and see all these wonderful places that we had. I was just in Odisha, the state that the minister comes from, and that's one place that is so unexplored, apart from the fact that they've just done the Sri Jagannath Mandir, the Parikrama, which is worth seeing, the kind of effort that they put in, also the beauty of the state that they're now showcasing in various ways. There's also been this pilgrimage tourism, and we saw the Ayodhya temple have huge impact in terms of the number of people that are now coming as part of pilgrimage tourism. And the government has identified under the Prashad scheme 68 such destinations to develop and is trying to build infrastructure over there. Apart from that, we've seen the government of India move from Incredible India to Namaste India, the entire promotion of India as a destination across the world. Particularly, we saw during the G20. And that global campaign is very important to develop it. Of course, the other thing that we've seen encouraging is the tourist e-visas. Something like 44 countries can now come into India and just use the e-visa to get in rather than the cumbersome process. Of course, lots more needs to be done. But I'm saying these are the positive sides of all this development. We must admit that while we're great at episodic improvements of tourism, not talking of other sectors, what we lack really is sustained improvement and sustained focus. So one needs to be blunt about these things because otherwise we'd never sort of move forward. There was a very interesting draft policy that was circulated by the Union Tourism Ministry in 2022. That's 2 years ago. Wonderful suggestions, and I'll just give you a few things that, unfortunately, the draft policy, I'm sure a lot of the sector people are here, has not really moved forward towards implementation. And if you look at some of the areas, this is critical to what we had looked at, and I'm just going to list a few of them. I'd advise you all to read the document, those particularly interested in it. And one of the areas they talked of is heritage and culture, and the fact that India is almost like a living museum. Wherever you go, there's so much to see. And we have speakers in the first session going to talk about this particular aspect of tourism and why we can give a new lease of life to a lot of these monuments and places of interest that we have, which we're not doing at the moment. Then, of course, we have luxury tourism. We've had the Maharajas of yore and their palaces and the heritage properties that are there that we need to showcase far better. Rajasthan has shown the way. Some other states like Madhya Pradesh and others that do have, Mysore, for instance, has it, but we can do a lot with that because that's the general interest. Spirituality and, of course, temple tourism is a big thing. Spirituality more for the foreign visitors who see so much that is there. And plus, today, the Char Dham, Indian visitors going to any of these other places that's there, trying to see, what they couldn't do before. We have, of course, the conventional MICE, as we call them, the meetings and incentives, conferences, and exhibitions area. Again, after G20, I think we have the potential to showcase India and get a lot more people to come in. We have the facilities now to hold these massive exhibitions, and this is something we need to promote. Adventure, which we're going to talk, I think, a little later on bikes and on the digital highway, great way to promote it. But let's not forget that we have such diverse geographical areas. 73% of the Himalayas are situated in India, and apart from other mountain ranges, I have the Western Ghats from my own home state in Karnataka, and of course Kerala and Maharashtra and other places, not to forget the Vindhyas. And all of these are great potential for skiing if it's snowing, trekking, rock climbing, paragliding. We have a whole lot of those activities. Apart from that, wildlife and ecotourism, another great potential that is there. underexploited, of course. And at the same time, since we are moving towards green tourism, we need to ensure that it is sustainable. It is not harming the wildlife that we have there, but at the same time, allowing people to enjoy the pristine purity of many of our forests and rivers. Yoga has become a big thing. We can transform that to get a lot of people to come here and learn from the source rather than have yoga teachers exported and teach people over there. Ayurveda, of course, holistic health and wellness. These are big areas that we do apart from the traditional medical tourism that India has some of the finest hospitals, and that's a big area of growth that's there. One of the areas that we could possibly look at, and some states have started, is looking at rural village farm or agro-tourism. Punjab is a great example of how you could showcase it. You could have the Bhangra, you could have all the festivities and the great food and the cuisine that they offer. And this could be something that you can offer beyond what everybody else has seen, whether it's the Taj Mahal or Delhi or the Great Golden Triangle, as we called it in Rajasthan, to offer a lot more to a visitor to come in. Then, of course, the beaches and islands that we have. The Prime Minister went to Lakshadweep and tried to showcase it and show that, Maldives is quite a distance away, Lakshadweep is closer. Why don't we get there? Why do we all head to Maldives instead? 7,500 kilometers of coastline we have across the country, and this, with the tropical climate, the kind of variety that you get to see in terms of our beaches, in terms of the sea that is there, plus the pilgrimages and tourism spots in this. Goa has, of course, developed it into, let's say, into not only just an industry, but an art in the way it has sold itself. In Karnataka, I know, for instance, Karwar, which is one of the most beautiful cities, has never been developed. And that whole coastline, which is as pretty as Goa would be, or is, has never been developed. And as you go down, Kerala has shown what you could do for riverine tourism, which is another big area, the backwaters, the dams, can be developed. Here again, we're talking of cruises. We've seen Varanasi happen now, and you can take a cruise down, and of course, that also helps cargo movement. And let's not forget the ocean that we have so much, but we don't develop. India could become a hub of cruise destinations, not only for India, but across to the Middle East and any other places. Why should Greece be the only place that develops it? We should be the ones that be doing it. And also the other thing that we have now become very, very good at is sports. We hold the best cricket events. There's no reason why we can't develop that and link it with state tourism so that whenever a match is being played there, the person can also go when there's a break to some of the places and see it before they watch the other match. So that's something that we need to look at. And we talked of cuisine. I think there again, we're not showcasing enough of foods. Across the country, I have to mention Odisha again, not out of any bias, but the cuisine there when we were just there last week, was so amazing. We hadn't tasted the kind of dishes were there. And you go to any state, come to my district, Coorg or Kodagu, I'm sure you would just enjoy the kind of food that we have. And so every state has its own unique thing which we need to develop. Shopping, another big area, film tourism, fairs and festivals, I can go on. There's so much that we offer, and including the destination weddings. We are going elsewhere to Thailand and others. Why don't we encourage people to have their own, apart from Indians having their weddings as the Prime Minister has asked for, but also get other peoples to hold their weddings over here. Now, just to look at what needs to be done. We have this about 20 areas that we could develop. And just briefly to talk about some of the things we need to do, and the policy did talk about it, but we haven't implemented it. One, of course, is the whole concern that is moving the world, which is what the policy wanted was a national green tourism mission, because as we know, not only our goods are going to come into increasing focus. Now we are negotiating with Europe to postpone the carbon rules for another 4 years so that our products can continue to sell. That's the same with tourism. Unless we develop green tourism, we will not get the kind of visitors we need from international, from foreign countries coming into India. So that's something we need to look at it. Then there is this whole leverage of the digital tourism business, which we're not doing. We have the UPI. Why? And some of the big, we have one or two of the big digital travel agents that are there. But why aren't we becoming the hub for a lot of that? We have demonstrated our skills in doing this. And not only just in terms of payments and offering, but the entire showcasing. If we can map the entire the country's products or the places and destinations, and then make it easy for people to get in and say, okay, I want to go here. If I want a combination of wildlife, beach, and this, where should I go to, and which is the best hub to land up on that front? So that's something that we need to look at very closely. The other, quickly to sort of go down the list of things, we've talked, obviously this brings us to connectivity and transport, and the fact that we are still not leveraging the, our airlines, our train services, our shipping, our, roads. Roads have been developed, but we need to integrate that very closely with two things. One is to provide the hub, so that if I come in, I can move from Delhi or Kolkata or wherever to the tourist destination directly. So it needs interstate tie-ups that offer, rather than just, this is collaboration, not just competition among states. So if Uttar Pradesh has this to offer, it ties up with Delhi and says, you get your tourists here, and also I'll offer this to them with discounts. So there are innovative ways that we could look at. Let's also not forget about the fact that we need to start doing a lot of change in the way we fund our industry. There is public sector funding, which is, should ideally just be for infrastructure, which is building your roads and rails and everything else, and air connectivity. But there must be private investment. Only private can drive the tourism industry, because it's firstly very state-oriented. You can't bring the kind of laws that centrally you can do, but the states can then encourage the private industry with incentives. Apart from the center, there's been a long demand to make tourism as part of the industry sector that would give them a lot more incentives for developing hotels, for developing resorts for this. And I think the other critical area, there's a whole lot of other areas, but I would also, I think, very importantly, talk about skill development. Now, this is an area that everybody has been talking about. There is even in the national mission or so-called national mission of tourism for MSMEs, which looks at the entire thing of accommodation, food and beverages, tourist attractions, recreation and others. But these need to be, let's not use man, because these need to be populated with skilled workers. Without that, you will not be able to develop the industry. And I think this is where you require particular emphasis, not just on skill development, but tourism skill development. And also, let's not forget, as we get to the last mile, some of the things that people are really concerned about is hygiene, which is very important. I think the Prime Minister with the Swachh Bharat scheme did do a lot of cleanup, so we don't see what we see on the trains every day in the morning when we go from places. But hygiene is not just that. It requires right across standardization, hotels, so that you're not for, the water that you drink, all that is very critical, as well as security for tourists, because that's a big area. If I'm traveling into areas that has never been done, we need to beef up a lot of the security that's there. So wayside amenities, these are things that are very, very critical to do, apart from seamless connectivity, which I talked about, and infrastructure development. And I think we need an all-of-government approach, finally, to sort of, every department has to come into play. If it is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, then let's ease the visa restrictions. Let's make it far easier, multiple visas, long-term visas, so you're not cluttering yourself, so that a lot more people feel India is welcoming them. The namaste that we do is there, part of that thing. We could go on, in terms of what needs to be done. We talked of granting tourism industry status, and of course, a lot more money needs to be done on marketing and promotion of our thing. So quality, marketing, infrastructure, connectivity, last mile particularly are all very critical. This is one of the reasons why we hold this summit annually, so that we could get together top experts to come and discuss some of the key areas that's there. We're also, as part of our policy, encouraging states in terms of having friendly competition. And one of the things that we do is to have awards being given, apart from the survey. This time we've have something like 121 tourist destinations we've surveyed, and all the states have participated in this. We got a reputed agency, MDRA, to do the research for us, including interview respondents and frequent travelers and others. And we will be presenting the results of that, this thing. I'm very happy to announce that the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Mr. V.K. Saxena, will give away the awards for the best emerging states, and Mr. Kiran Rijiju, the Union Minister for Earth Sciences, will be presenting the awards for the best performing states. So We're also delighted to have Odisha Tourism Minister, Mr. Patra here, as well as all the secretaries and managing directors of the respective states. And we'll be, later they'll also get into a discussion on one of the sessions. So we are delighted and we welcome you all. Thank you very much for your time. We look forward to a fruitful morning and afternoon. Thank you.